Hi all, this is Skate, and I want to have a quick look at the T49. Now, this thing got nerfed not too long ago, and there was a lot of outcry about the nerf, and there was a lot of happiness as well actually, but I still think it's a very viable and very, very fun tank to play. I genuinely love playing this tank. It obviously suffers in terms of penetration now, and overall the damage per shot is, in my opinion, not what it should be on the HE, especially as you're paying through the butt for it, because the HE shells are ridiculously expensive. Now, I don't play this tank with the more reliable, consistent gun, a normal gun, because, well, it's sacrilege in my opinion to drive this thing without the 152, because it's what makes the tank so much fun. And it's that fun factor which is what makes me love this tank so much. And when they nerfed it, I just adjusted a couple of things, especially with 4.4 and the changes to equipment, and it's still just as much fun. I mean, that guy is an example. I'm aiming for the weak spot. I could just try and fire straight into the front of him, but it's thinner armor, so you're going to get that little bit more penetration, in theory. But in terms of equipment, guys, instead of the rammer, I now run the calibrated shells, and instead of the enhanced armor, which I use just for the chance of trying to improve a bounce, I now use the improved assembly for the extra hit points. Aside from that, the only other thing which I've changed is my ammo loadout. I now carry 10 heat, and I think previously it was something like 6. Only minor differences, but they make the difference between trying to make this tank a bit more competitive and making those shots more reliable. So you increase your reload, but you're giving yourself that extra pen. And it's shots like this which make the tank so much fun. Straight into the back of a tier 9 medium tank. Because you know they're probably raging at the screen. And that's kind of the fun factor. I mean, here's the other reason why I carry more heat now as well. You can't really do a lot of damage to heavies with your HE, but with your heat, you can do a lot of damage to the back and to the side of a lot of German tanks, which sometimes you can't reliably penetrate with HE. So switching to the heat to get that reliable penetration, you're going to do that bit more damage. One thing actually worth noting, or I think worth noting in terms of the gun as well. When they nerfed it, they said that they've dropped the chance of an ammo rack from, they mentioned 500 to 210. Now, that sounds like a huge drop, and it is. But we don't really have a perspective on that. Now, the reason I say that is because, can anyone tell me what the chances with another gun is? You can't, because they're hidden stats. So telling us that in the update didn't really give any perspective in the grand scheme of things, because we don't know what the other tanks do in terms of damage in that aspect. You don't get those sort of statistics on Tank Compare, and logically we know the bigger the caliber of gun, the more chance there is of causing an ammo rack, but it's like a KV2. Can anyone tell me what the number is for that? We don't know. What I do know is prior to the update, which nerfed this tank, I was getting an ammo rack nearly every game, which is a little bit ridiculous. Since the nerf, I have had one ammo rack with this tank. So maybe the ammo rack aspect was a little bit too much. But again, perspective is required. I'd like to be able to compare those figures, which they mentioned from 500 to 210 chance of an ammo rack, to something like a KV2, because without it, we don't have perspective on, well, what that means in the grand scheme of things. Well, other than we know we're going to get a shed ton less ammo racks. So there are some negatives which are expected, but, well, the other thing to consider is in 4.2 they brought out the French lights, which just meant more squishy targets to shoot at. Aside from all that stuff, I still play this tank probably just as often as I did prior to the, prior to the nerf. It's still a barrel of laughs to play, and it will remain that way as long as we still have the 152mm on it, because there's nothing quite as amusing as taking off 75% of someone's health with one shot. Examples like this. There's not much of that tank showing. The first shot we missed. The second shot, combined with a shot from someone from our team, left him on, well, sod all health. And it's the same thing again. When I'm driving this tank, I will look for the light lightly armoured targets like that RU-251. It may sound greedy on the surface of it because, well, it almost looks like you're just trying to farm for damage at that point, but you're not. Taking out light tanks which you know you can fully penetrate reduces the view range of your enemy team, and, well, it's just fun to watch. Because you can cause a huge amount of damage. But again, aside from that, you're reducing the amount of targets or enemies, so you're reducing the amount of guns very quickly by picking tanks that you know you can penetrate. And naturally, that's rapidly increasing your chance of having a win, improving your odds of actually pulling that win out of the bag. But if you're looking for a review on this tank, I have done a review previously. There is a link in the video description of this video. And I completely fluffed this shot. Check this out. Ready? What was that? Instead, I'm just going to try and continue to ram this guy. Well, until I reload anyway. But review. I have done the review previously. This is just intended to update that review with what I've done in terms of equipment differences and my ammo loadout differences. In terms of playstyle, I still play it in exactly the same way as I do in that previous video. And like I said, regardless of nerf, I still enjoy this tank just as much as I did. It is so much fun. I mean, look at the heat in the back of this Tiger. It's cruel. It's the only way to describe it. And how's this for a finale to a match? So, there's a Comet on 12 by there, and I could do more damage by aiming for the Panther. Instead, I wanted to try and ram him. Instead, I drive over him, leave him on 2, and put one into the back of the Panther to finish him off. I literally skimmed over the top of that Comet. Yeah. I left him on 2, and I drove over him. That game gave us 4,261 damage, and we made a profit in that one. Not much, but we made 5,767. And this is what I think is actually the serious problem or backhanded issue of the T49. That HE is really expensive. And if you don't penetrate your shots while using that HE, you won't make credits. And you're not always going to penetrate your shots. In fact, half and half is probably a more accurate figure of how often you're going to penetrate. Because you need to track heavy tanks, and you need to shoot at heavy tanks, which you can't always penetrate with your heat. So you need to just splash them and keep them in position and run away. Doing that is advantageous to pull the win. Because obviously if you try to fire your heat into the side of tracks of something, they're just going to get absorbed. But you fire your HE into the tracks, you're going to track him, you are going to cause damage, but you're not going to make a lot of credits. So if I make credits in this tank, I consider it to be a good game. But to be honest, I don't care about losing credits in this tank. You don't play this tank for the credits, and you don't play it for consistency, which is why I don't run the normal gun. When I say the normal gun, I mean the 90mm gun which you can get on this thing. Like I said, I think it's sacrilege, because with this tank and this gun, you can get up early, you can spot, and you can launch HE shells completely unspotted from the middle of the map into flanking targets. And that is ideally where you need to be to improve your chances of obviously penetrating and causing lots and lots of bodily harm to enemy tanks. You need to be on the flanks. Shooting HE constantly at the front of an IS-3 not only is going to bleed you of credits, it's just going to rattle the enemy crew a little bit and cause 200-300 damage. Getting around the back, putting a heat shot into the butt of said IS-3, that's a different story. It's just nasty. What's better than Russian heavies though? French heavies! You can penetrate the side and the butt all day long. And when you have a nice high damage roll of 947, like I said, it feels filthy. And when I was coming up with a title for this video, well, you didn't even need to come up with it. I was thinking about it after the nerf, and the only thing I could think was, yep, it's still filthy. And it is. Nerf or not, there's not many tanks that can provide you with this playstyle. Yeah, you could argue KV2. I'm a big fan of the KV2. But will a KV2 allow you to get around the flank of something big and slow and just put one huge nasty alpha shot again into the butt of another French heavy? Absolutely not. It's the unique playstyle of this tank which makes it so much fun. And people get attracted to tanks with a unique playstyle. People get attracted to tanks which provide something different. Whether they've been nerfed or not, it's still a lot of fun. And it's still unique, and you still can't help but laugh, like I said, when you hit the butt of a French heavy tank and do something just shy of 1,000 damage. Now granted, Russian heavies, you can't do that sort of alpha figure to them because you can't use your HE, but you can use your heat. And as long as you fire at these tanks on the back plate, you will reliably do damage with that heat, which is why I carry more than I did, because I use the heat more often than I did prior to the penetration nerf on the HE. Basically, if you haven't got this tank because you heard, ooh, it's been nerfed, I don't want to play it, or I'm not going to waste my time grinding for it, trust me, go ahead, get the tank, you won't regret it. Just don't drive it with a normal gun. Where's the fun in that? It's all about this big, nasty alpha gun. I'm certainly not going to stop playing it, because it's just so much fun. You fire those big, nasty shots. Even that IS-3. Wow. I don't think he was expecting to have that much health taken off him. But that was a nice, fun game, and we made plenty of credits on that one. We made 19,700, because we did 5,110 damage, which is because our HE shells penetrated. And we weren't camping, sitting at the back, we pushed up, we spotted 5 of the enemy team. But then you work around the flanks, regardless what the team says of, oh, you're camping, you're running around, you're not helping, screw them. Do what you think is best in the tank, which is obviously working your way around. They'll thank you afterwards when you've done plenty of damage to try and help your team, but at the start, I mean like this one, all the team is going right except for me, and this is a perfect example of that. You can see the VK, who's a good player, says up. There's no point me going with everyone else head on. I'm better off using my mobility to see if I can spot anything. And if I can't spot anything on this side, well, my team is going to be 6 on 7 head to head on that side. And I'm going to be round the butts of all those tanks, which is just going to allow me to do plenty of damage rather than small, inconsistent amounts of damage firing at the front of these tanks. So at the start, people may not see what you're doing or what you're intending on doing, but towards the end, I'm pretty sure it's well worth that somebody moaning at you or calling you a noob at the start for not just running with the pack. This tank is perfect running solo because, well, people don't expect you to come out from the flank when the rest of the team is all up there. So this video, or this clip, this replay, god damn it, this replay here isn't about the damage. I'm not top of the damage board. It's about the tactics I like to implement with this tank. And that's really what makes or breaks a good game. Like I said, we're not top of the board on this one, but we certainly did our fair share to help whittle down the team, do enough damage to secure said win. That enemy team up there is now fighting on 2 flanks. And not all of them are going to turn around and face me. And those ones that don't turn around and face me, well, it's those ones I'm after because I can get to their butts and I can really, really annoy them. So when I said screw the team earlier, I didn't mean that in a, literally screw them, who cares what they think. It's more down to just because somebody doesn't see what you're trying to do or what your intention is at the very, very start, doesn't mean you have to just give in and follow the conga line in one direction. Do what you think is right, which is flanking this tank, whether some people see it at the start or not. And credit to that Jagdtiger 8.8, he said T49 nice, which I appreciate because he hasn't raged at me for getting around the flank and setting him on fire. He's actually appreciated the logic behind what I was trying to do. And this makes me laugh. He hasn't got the gun depression to get me on over the ridge there, so we can just tap him as he comes down. And here, this IS-3, all his attention is now on me, which allows my team to push up and take shots at him. I've just got to sit here being a nuisance, being a distraction. My friendly IS-3 is going to come round to have a perfect, easy shot on his butt and not get it. But it's okay. Our friendly VK just wiped him out with an ammo rack, which leaves just a T54 Mod 1. But this is a nice example of what I mean. That guy had all his attention on me. I got plenty of butt shots in here. And the VK was doing his job, pushing the front. Being a tough heavy tank. I shouldn't be on the front with heavy tanks. And you'd be surprised how many T59s you see doing that. And again, this Mod 1, he just wants to point his armour at me and look at me. Which, to be fair, I don't care at this late end stage in the game. I'm trying to get around him, but look, all he wants is me. And that VK's come in, fair play to him, to take the shot and try and block me, but I was trying to be an idiot and trying to secure the last little bit of damage I could. But nonetheless, it was still a very good, very fun game. And it's the tactics in that one which is what mattered. I did 3,198 damage. Friendly VK did 3,500, and that, to me, was like a perfect example of how to use this tank. It doesn't always go to plan, and you could get caught out on the flank, but it's definitely worth doing. And so many times I've been called a noob for running off by myself on the flank to try and get round the targets which have been engaged by my team. Now, thankfully, that VK didn't call me a noob. He was telling the team to go up, and the team did, everybody except me. He didn't call me a noob, though. He's actually a good player, which I think is why he didn't, because he knew what I was trying to accomplish. But the point I'm getting at is some people won't, and some people will rage at you for abandoning your team to try and get round the flank. It happens with a lot of light tanks in general, actually, but T49, you've got to be on the butts to make it work, and you just have so much more fun. Anyway, short and sweet. It's not a full review, it's just me rambling on like usual pretty much. If you want to see my in-depth review on this tank, there is a link in the video description. Thank you all for watching, guys, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.